is known as the XWX position. All right, so this is your XWX position. You're just gonna go feet slightly wider than hips. So if my hips are dropping in here, my feet are just gonna go slightly outside that. To start off, let's go toes facing forward. All right, toes facing forward. One of the variations you can make to this is pointing toes out, pointing toes inside, but for right now, most simple version, let's go toes facing forward, feet slightly outside of hips. Also variation there, you can go much wider, you can come a little bit more narrow. That's depending on what your hips, what your body is allowing you. So we're gonna go our XWX position here. All right, toes facing forward, okay? From that position there, we're gonna tuck the pelvis, okay? So showing you from profile as well. If I'm in that wide stance, my toes are facing forward. All right, if my butt is sticking out, I'm gonna bring that tailbone underneath, okay? Straightening my legs out, keeping them straight. If anything, just a very slight bend in the knee, very slight bend in the knee. All right, tucking the pelvis. And from that position in the sagittal plane, all right, we're just gonna raise our hands up above our head and slightly behind and come back to, okay? So now I'm gonna do it in real time, tucking my pelvis, okay? Raising my hands slightly up above and slightly behind and come back to. As I'm doing this, I'm keeping my eyes along the horizon and my chest facing there. I'm not gonna go up with it right now, okay? Just for what we're doing right here, tucking the pelvis, slight bend in my knee, toes facing forward, and I'm just gonna reach up, just like so, all right? And even if you want to take a step back, like let's say you're doing the reach and you start to feel maybe some lower back discomfort, okay? Stop with the reach, and what you can do is just stick your butt out as far as you can and bring it back to. Stick it out, bring it back to, okay? So that's your sagittal plane there. Just going front to back and taking that pelvis and moving it forward and backwards, okay? Or tipping forward and coming back. What you can do next is taking that wide stance, toes facing forward. All right, we can go into the frontal plane here, and we're gonna do a translation or a tilt with the pelvis. So I'm going to actually take my hand and I'm gonna put it on the hip bone that you can feel right here. You can feel your hip bones. I'm gonna stick both my hands on those. Same thing, I'm gonna tuck my pelvis, all right? And then I'm just gonna push my right side down. Okay, maybe I feel that lengthening through the anterior aspect, maybe a little bit medial into the groin. And then I'm gonna come back to neutral. And then I'm gonna go other side, just like so. Now variations here, if you can keep your legs straight as you go, that's great. If you're doing this and you're like, I'm not really feeling anything, maybe as I push down to my right side, I'm gonna bend my left knee a little bit so that I can really start to target this medial hip and lengthen all the musculature through the adductors there. Just like so, come back to neutral. Same thing, I'm gonna slightly bend my right knee here and just kind of push down on the top part of this left side of the pelvis and come back to. Now you can do this where you're going in, let's say you start feeling the tissue lengthen through this left medial side. You can hold there, let's say 15 seconds, and then maybe you do a little oscillation here. All right, so you're sitting into this and you're just kind of bouncing. Come back to neutral, other side, tuck that pelvis, boom, and now maybe I'm just slightly bouncing into that left side now, or that the right is lengthening, and I'm just kind of bouncing into my left knee almost. All right, so from the side view, right, tuck my pelvis, boom, and then I'm just pushing down on the right. Oh, I got a nice little hip pop there. Come back to neutral and go left. This actually is lighting up my left medial hip right now into my groin. Feels fantastic. All right, and then last but not least, the one that I like to do. All right, so that XWX position here, toes are facing forward. I'm gonna tuck my pelvis. All right, and now I'm gonna use my hands or my nose as a driver, and I'm just gonna rotate, almost pushing through the inside of my left foot, rotate to my right, and immediately I get tissue lengthening all the way wrapping underneath through the groin. Pretty incredibly there. And then I'm going to come back to neutral, push through the inside of my right foot, same thing. Transverse for me, the rotation of the pelvis really lights up my hips. So I'm just going to go through that same thing. I'm going to hold here, emphasizing the push through the inside of my left foot. Ooh, and I'm just going to see how far I can take it. Come back to neutral, same thing. There we go. And remember, biggest thing here, as I'm doing these, do not be afraid to stick the butt out and tuck it again. That is going to be something very consistent with all of these moves, is getting the motion through the pelvis in these different positions. So if I'm in my wide stance, my toes are facing forward, and I'm going to do my transverse plane here, where I am doing the rotation, I'm going to tuck my pelvis. I'm going to go through till I really start feeling the lighting of the left hip. So I'm rotating right, my left hip. I feel it. I'm going to hold it there. 3, 2, start doing some oscillations. You can always test it out by extending the arms. The further you go through this process, the more you're going to light that up, the more the spine is involved in carrying you that way, the more ask of that hip you're asking for. But also, if I'm in this position, as I'm going through, I might try and stick my butt out and then bring it back too. Let's say I get here in this position, I can hold on to something. So I've rotated to the right now. I'm going to hold on to something to stay in this position, and now I'm going to stick my butt out, and then I'm going to tuck the pelvis again, okay? So anterior tuck is sticking your butt out. Posterior tuck is bringing your butt underneath you, okay, or your tailbone underneath you. So then, let's say you're a right-handed golfer, okay? Let's say you're a right-handed golfer here. You can take a wider stance just for opening these hips up, okay? So I'm a golfer, I'm a right-handed golfer. I'm facing my toes forward, okay? I'm gonna tuck my pelvis, and now I'm gonna do my golf swing, but I'm gonna go slow here. I'm gonna do my golf swing. Oh, what, already? My left hip, crazy. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to position myself somewhere where I can pause that. So if you have a wall or a door or something to hold, you can get the position, tuck the pelvis, start going through the rotation. Maybe I find that point and I'm going to hold myself right there now. I'm holding myself in halfway through my backswing right now, right? And my left hip is lit up, my right posterior hip's taking a slight load, right? And maybe I creep up again and I just go a little bit further, right? So there's so many variations here. Don't be afraid to ask questions, reach out. That is the most basic form of going through sagittal plane tuck, the frontal plane where we're dropping in. All right, show that from both. Dropping in from left to right, so a pelvic translation there. And then the transverse rotation, okay? As I'm getting my pelvis to literally turn. And what that's doing is, with our feet situated to the ground, right, they can't move. They may try, but they can't move. So my femur is being held in place as my pelvis goes the opposite direction. And that's creating a relationship between the femur and the pelvis, and the tissue, if all is going well, will begin to lengthen. You will feel that. It's almost inevitable. You will feel it, whether it's transverse is maybe the one where you feel it the most. Maybe it's going into the frontal plane, you feel it the most. Maybe it's just starting off in sagittal. We are very sagittally plane dominant through most of life. You know, we're working on the computer in front of us. We're driving the car, steering wheel in front of us. These things tend to start building those patterns where we're focused on what's in front of us. But the hips, especially, let's talk about any athlete, whether it's, baseball, golf, soccer, you're always winding the body up. So if I'm gonna wind my body up for any type of movement that I may be doing more often than not, I have to have access to my hips. So this is a big one. You can start off with this. I actually do this every single day before I do my training sessions. sometimes twice a day, depending on how intense the session was, how I'm feeling. Maybe I took a couple of days off and I'm feeling a little bit more locked up.